Now I rest my case. Thank you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Now, I would take a few questions, maybe for half an hour or so.
Just 1 minute. For the questions, please come here. We don't have microphone to go around.
Some people may not want to come here.
No, I mean they can speak from this way. We can hear. So just line up and Kalyan come. And if other people have questions, just come and stand here and raise your questions, sir. We'll answer those.
Oh, there are many.
You asked for it.
I can choose my question. Okay, this one.
In one of your earlier interviews in Madanpalli to a foreign journalist, you manifested a rudraksha and vibhuti. I just want to know if it is a magic trick or a true manifestation.
Well, it's a magic trick. I have nothing to hide. I must tell you the context of this. This gentleman who came to interview me said that only great yogis can do this. I said, look, if you come with me for 10 minutes, I can tell you how to do this. And I said, it's no big deal. So therefore I did it. There's nothing more to it. I don't carry one with me, so I can't show you. But if I did, you would have been surprised by it. You wouldn't know where it came from. Thank you.
Namaste, Sriyan. Thank you very much for being here. Actually, 2 weeks ago at Long Island, you mentioned that for you it's as if you are in a tavern all the time. And can you just elaborate? There wasn't much conversation that time.
Okay, got it. Yeah, apparently somewhere in Long Island, when I was talking to people, I said that it's like as if I'm always in a tavern. It's true, I said it. You know why one is always in a tavern, one is drunk. That's what I meant. So there is a kind of drinking which we do, which is not dependent on chemicals or alcohol. It's something to do with the joy that comes into you from your heart. And many great teachers have compared it to alcohol, like a person who is drunk. But this drinking is completely different from that. Please understand, that's what I meant, okay? And I want to tell you a little story. Once upon a time, when Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was being taken, come sir, we'll come, get back to you, come. Okay, we'll sit down. Okay. Once upon a time when Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was traveling in the street of Calcutta in a horse carriage, in a buggy. Those days there were no cars. There might be, but he suddenly told the guys who were sitting near him, stop, stop. So, what happened? There was a person on the footpath, on the pavement, fully drunk and reeling away like that. You know, when people get fully drunk, they can't walk straight, they go like snakes sometimes. So he was snaking his way along the pavement. Ramakrishna said, stop, stop, so they stopped. He said, open the door. So he ran out and he went and hugged this guy closely. And he said, hey, you know, we are brothers. You're drunk, I'm also drunk. Everybody was surprised, he didn't have any alcohol. But you're drunk, I'm also drunk. I have a different kind of liquor, he said. I'm drunk, and you're also drunk. We are brothers. And he would refuse to let him go. Now that guy was also quite flustered, what's happening? So finally, with great difficulty, they got him out, back into the buggy, and they went away. Now, several years later, when the headquarters of the mission was built, and Swami Vivekananda once came out from the shrine after meditation. In those days there was no image of Ramakrishna, there was only a picture. He saw a matted haired yogi standing there. And the yogi saw him and he asked him, "Are you connected with this?" Yes, he said yes. He didn't know who he was, Vivekananda. He said, "Can I hug that picture out there?" So Swamiji said, "No, we don't allow people to go into the shrine and hug the picture. I mean, it's kept there for worship of Ramakrishna." He said, "Well, why do you want to do this?" He said, "It's before your time, you don't know this. Once I was fully drunk and I was walking on the footpath in Calcutta. And this person there, the picture, he came out of a horse cart and he hugged me. And he said, 'Brother, we are both drunks. You're drunk and I'm drunk.' I went home. From that day I couldn't drink alcohol, but I was still drunk. I couldn't touch alcohol, but I was drunk. And so my life has changed. Now I am enjoying that, the Amrita. So I thought maybe I can hug it, hug the picture. So Swamiji said, "Go ahead." And apparently Swamiji regretted saying, "I still haven't touched that." So, yeah.
Waiting to see you for so long, so I can describe how happy I feel. I have one request. I want prasad and ashirvad for you. I want prasad and ashirvad from you for my spiritual journey.
Thank you. I thought you were asking me. Yeah, you did, yeah. Now, ashirvad means blessing.
Yeah.
Blessing may come through me, but it always comes from the Most High. And as far as prasad is concerned, the word prasad, if you check in the Sanskrit dictionary, it means peace and tranquility. So you can feel a little bit, we think prasad is the food that we get, which is okay, nice to have prasad. But prasad actually means prasada, prasadam, which means the mind is completely quiet and tranquil. So hopefully I pray that you would touch that which is always at peace. Thank you.
Anybody?
Sir, somebody?
Anybody? Yeah.
Hey, there is.
My question is, there are many ways to worship the God. Now, how is it connected to the Kundalini awakening? And in all these practices, is that what happened before somebody realizes who really I am? Thank you.
Now we have a new subject introduced into this discussion, which is the Kundalini. Sir, I generally don't much refer to that word, the Kundalini, because today it has become so kind of cheap that there's a cafe in Portland called the Kundalini Cafe. So on the way to Brighton Bush you can see it. So I avoid using the term, but it's there is something like that, of course. Plus, if you read some of the YouTubes, if you look at the YouTube or look at some of the ads in magazines, there are ads saying that for $3,000 you can raise your Kundalini and take it to the top of the head. The other guys came one day, somebody came to me the other day and said, "Now my Kundalini has reached my head. So what shall I do?" I said, "Do nothing. Why have you come to me?" So this is a very tricky thing. However, it's true that there is an energy in every one of us, male or female, all human beings, which is latent and not active in most. Well, even when you're terribly angry, or where you're indulging in sex, doing any one of these occupations with complete abandon, it's actually a manifestation of that energy in some form, Shakti. Shakti is, it's important to note that energy in the ancient Hindu tradition is considered feminine. Devi, Shakti. So, it is there, of course. Now, to your question, sometimes one need not directly be practicing the Kundalini yoga to awaken this energy. A great devotee whose heart is full and who is one-pointedly looking at attaining the goal, it happens by itself. But it need not necessarily happen that it goes from this end to the top. It can happen spontaneously at any center, including the heart. What Kundalini yoga did Mirabai practice? Nothing. That applies to Kriya also. Kriya yoga, which is my discipline, which is my... Mirabai did not practice any such thing, but she felt great joy in calling on Krishna with great devotion, because the manifestation of that energy happened inside her heart. She may or may not know it, it doesn't matter. What Kundalini yoga did Ramana Maharshi practice? Nothing. You can't say that he didn't touch that Supreme. So, while it is true that the latent energy is awakened in many cases, even without directly practicing something to awaken it, there are techniques, there are ways by which yogis practice specifically for the awakening of the Kundalini, but one has to be quite careful with this, because you are now directly trying to touch tremendous energy which may be more than a hydrogen bomb, more than what Kim is talking about in North Korea. So, if you don't know how to control it and properly figure it out, it's better to leave it untouched and do simple things like prayer, meditation, mantras, chanting, bhakti. At one point it will happen that it is awakened, but then it will happen so gradually that you won't have the shock of it. It's not... Even among very important yogis, I have seen it happen sometimes with such force that they are completely gone wonky. So you have to be careful. I'm not putting you off, I'm just trying to explain. Thank you. Sir, there are two people. No, you can sit. It's okay.
Actually, what is the importance of doing Tirtha Yatra, going to pilgrimage, and how is that related to the spirituality?
The question was, if you didn't hear it clearly, the question was, what is the importance of going on pilgrimage to places? Does it improve you? Now here, while it's good to go on pilgrimages, because very often you meet like-minded people who are interested in that, and most of the pilgrim centers are located in such areas where there is a certain atmosphere which can improve your spiritual progress. But however, it is also a good practice to go through various difficulties during the pilgrimage. Yeah, you learn to survive in the middle of so many problems, which is also a good thing to do. But if you ask me, is pilgrimage absolutely necessary for spiritual progress? I would say not necessary. You know the famous story from the Puranas, right? When, well, you can call it a story if you like, but it's a beautiful story about how Ganesha and Kartik wanted to travel all over the world and come back and find out who reaches first. So those who go on pilgrimage, like Kartik, flew on his peacock, everywhere and came back. And what did Ganesh do? Go round Shiva once. My pilgrimage is over. So if you find the spark of divinity in your heart, and if you really believe this, and if you're moving towards it, then you don't need to. There's no absolute need to do it. However, if you want to travel in the Himalayas, I would say good, you should, even if you are not religious. It's a wonderful experience. I've spent many years, so I know how it is. In fact, I reluctantly came back. So, I hope. The questioners are increasing.
I'm interested in.
Everybody can.
So I have been meditating myself for some years, but I feel that probably it's not as peace-giving as it should be. Maybe my technique is wrong, or I don't know. So I want to learn Kriya Yoga now. In India, I think it's easier to find a guru or...
No, it's not.
It's not? Okay. Okay. So if I plan to take it here, does your teacher really has to be like realized, or I can take it from any registered teacher and wait for my like guru to...
Are they registered teachers? Sorry.
Okay, this is, for example, Swami Pragyanandaji's organization here, and they have a website which has list of acharyas. So I picked one based on my location and my convenience. That's all I know about him. So should I still go ahead and take it from him? Like, does it matter how advanced the teacher is?
You put me in a spot. You know what? I'm so happy that you're so sincerely wanting to do something. I can understand. I really appreciate that. However, I can't tell you whether you can take from here or there. You know, it's difficult for me. I don't want to stand on judgment. Okay. However, it would be wonderful if somebody who has actually traveled on the path and has touched it gives you instruction. It will be much better. So therefore this internet business, one has to be a little bit careful. Okay, you go and see, you can't take Kriya now like this. It's not possible. And please don't think it's easier in India, because India has more gurus than disciples nowadays. So you would be thoroughly confused. Okay? The fact is that if you are sincere about it, you really want to move forward and meditate and go deep within, if you can keep that aspiration fresh without allowing it to die down, and put your mind into it and do something on your own. You know, it's better to have no guru at all than have a wrong teacher. You get all messed up and then it's too late, you can't pull out. Even in some cases, those who pull out have been murdered, so watch out. So, therefore, my suggestion is, not with us, okay? So, my suggestion is that you keep the aspiration fresh in your heart. Every day in the morning and evening, actually cry for it. Feel it that I want it. And I'm telling you, something will happen. Somebody will come.
Thank you.
Ramana Maharshi promoted self-inquiry by asking, who am I? That I think is Jnana Marga. I just wonder, is Jnana Marga better today in the present generation, because a lot of millennials are more intellectual, they can understand Jnana Yoga better than Bhakti Yoga. Probably there is not much of devotion swelling from inside.
It's a good question. However, you said that we are in an intellectual millennium. The Bhagavatam opens with the sentence, In this world where people are dim-witted, how can they understand jnana? We think we are highly intellectual, but I think we are not so intellectual, really. We live by the heart. Although we like to think that we are intellectual, we actually live by the heart, by the feeling. I'm not saying bhakti is better than jnana or anything of that kind. However, this self-enquiry, which Ramana Maharshi taught, is something which is not so easy for most people to figure out. And if you go to Tiruvannamalai, you can see any number of people sitting like this and saying, who am I, who am I? You don't find who you are by chanting, who am I? Understand? It's a question of figuring out who you actually are and where you stand. When I say, who am I? Some people immediately conclude, who are you? I am the Brahman. But you're not the Brahman. You eat, you drink, you pee, you shit, you die. What Brahman is this? So, what it actually means is to first find out where I stand, self-discovery. Is it, how good am I? How kind am I? How tolerant I am? That is my own discovery, and how intolerant I am, and how sometimes my ego takes over. To watch this is the first step, according to me, in self-realization. Self-realization is not to project a self and realize it. Of course, that is the ultimate. But it is to see yourself, not you, we are talking about where we stand, how we are now, at the moment. So if we can find that out, then you know what to take out and what to leave behind. And as you move along, perhaps you would move into the Jnana Marga. Jnana Marga is not merely intellectual. The person, the Upanishad, one of the key aims of the Upanishad is to teach a person the limitations of one's intellect. The limitations of one's intellect. Now, in Ramana Maharshi's case, it is an exceptional case. All are not Ramana Maharshis. He didn't do anything. He, at the age of 14, had a sudden, 15 or 14, had a sudden experience without practicing anything whatsoever from where he started his journey. I don't know whether he started journey or already he was already there. Now, for most people, this is not easily possible. I'm not saying you should not inquire, you should, but you should start at the point where we stand. Shankara says that the world is an illusion, it's a superimposition on reality. Now for most common people like us, the word Brahman is a superimposition on the reality, which we are not. I don't know whether you get the drift of what I'm trying to say. We are something else, we like to imagine that we are the Brahman. That experience is not imagination, it's a real experience when it happens. Therefore, to free ourselves from the limitations, saying, this is not it, this is not it, this is not it, which is why Shankara also used the term neti, 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 not this, not this. That's a good, but I don't know whether we can commonly prescribe it for all, because I'm not so sure if people are more intellectual today and less devotional than before. I can't say that, because there are some people who are truly devotional. I've seen some people. However, if somebody is going on this path and wants to stick to it, it is wonderful. But it's a long, hard path. It's tough.
My question is around, you just described the three qualities of yogi, right? So the third one is someone who thinks for everyone, right? But the whole concept of meditation, yoga, it's very like my-centered. So isn't there a conflict there right there when you start there?
Yeah. Now, wait. There is no conflict, because everybody is selfish in some way. There is nobody who is not selfish. not shellfish, I mean selfish. Now, what I want you to understand is, it's this selfishness which we have for ourselves, like the yogi who is meditating to become free, is actually a misunderstood version of the fact that you and I are the same. You know, so therefore, when a yogi meditates, he is not trying to make his center more selfish, he's actually trying to make it expand. So if you find a yogi who has meditated for 16 years and his heart has hardened and become stone, this is not yoga. The first thing that happens when you really meditate is that you think about the other person. You feel other people's sorrow. If you are just insulating yourself from that, then it's not the right meditation that is happening. I tell you a story. Everybody knows how famous Swami Vivekananda was. One of the greatest of yogis. So in his wandering days, before he was famous, once when he was traveling in Maharashtra, somebody who he knew came to him and said, you know so-and-so, Chatterjee, your old childhood friend, he passed away, he died. Swamiji burst into tears. This guy was shocked. He said, you're a yogi, you're a sannyasi, you're a wandering sannyasi above all things. I thought you would say, okay, but you burst into tears, you're crying. He said, do you think I worked all these years to turn my heart into stone? So it's not like that. You might be trying, you should, okay, if you feel guilty of meditating because you think that I am meditating for myself, think that maybe I will find a treasure and teach others about it, which may do good to the world. Turn it around.
So are there any example of people just serving others? Just
Yes.
Seva and just...
Absolutely. Seva is one way of cleaning the mind anyway.
So through Seva also...
Do Daridra Narayan Seva. All people who are in trouble, who are in sorrow, who are in pain, serve them. They are Narayana in human form. That will purify the mind. Well, again, there is a selfish aspect. I am serving to purify my mind. But there is no escape.
All right, thank you.
With this, we will stop the questions. You also included. Please.
It makes me happy to say that 5 people of my family, we just completed reading Shriyam.
Oh!
And you were here, and it was like a destiny. So, thanks for that. I have a simple question. In your discourse, you mentioned something about balancing in family life, or can you suggest any simple techniques that when I'm with my wife, with my kids, with my boss, at my work, how can we balance our mind?
Sir, I can suggest some things, but it may not be a simple technique. One of the things, I think half the problem is solved. Not half, at least some part of the problem. If I say to myself, she also knows some things, not only me. Okay, that maybe at some point she may be right and I may be wrong. If that is a good starting point. And the other is, one must always understand that one is not perfect. Therefore, if somebody else is not perfect, we should allow it to be. By saying that you can live at peace, it doesn't mean that you should both agree with everything. Not required. You may disagree, she may disagree, but you can still live in peace by saying, okay, as you are, you're okay, as I am, I'm okay, but we live together. Look, I am a married man. The other thing that women probably resent is that we don't discuss too many things with them. We take all our decisions and then we go ahead. Now this is like following Muhammad. He said, discuss everything with your wife and take your own decision. So, yeah, so you better discuss. Afterwards the decision is yours or it doesn't matter, it's good to. And in fact this was taught to me by my father-in-law, none less. When I got married and he called me aside and he said, look, I got to tell you something practical. I said, sir, what is that? He said, look, before you take any decision about various things, discuss it thoroughly with your wife. You know why? Because if something happens later, they say, see, I told you. So you know, this is a usual term, I told you. So he said, you discuss it thoroughly. And I said, then what? Then he said, you can take your own decision, it's okay. But and main thing I think is that we should understand sometimes that we can learn many things from others. And when you say others, please include the wife in it. Like when you say kindness to animals is a good thing, I tell them please include human beings in that. Otherwise there are people who feed ants with sugar but who have no compunctions in bumping off a business associate. What does it mean? So, thank you. Think about it.
Okay. Now one more question, which personally will help me personally. And it's kind of confession. When I read your biography...
Do you want to say that?
Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that. That is light from me. In your biography, you are born as Mumtaz Ali. One part of me is a seeker, but other part of me is one of the horrible guys. The reason is, what is going on in the Muslim world, I have developed a big hatred with that side.
Right.
And I am suffering to resolve that. How can I resolve that?
You can't. You leave them alone. Do your thing and lead your life.
I don't want to do that, but still it keeps on.
Yeah, I know. I don't.
And everything
I don't interfere with them. I don't talk to them. I keep away because it's hard to make people understand. You understand? So I keep away. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. And if anybody is causing you trouble, you're free to defend yourself. But I think it will take a long time for people to begin to understand that in a universal way. It's not easy. Especially when you have a religion which has only one book and one teacher. So look at the Hindu system of thought. There are so many inputs, and so many sides. It's not one. When it becomes one, while some things are good, there are these other things which may not be so good. We have to understand at least that much. You see, in the Hindu system of thought, everything is free. One is free to do what one likes. So therefore, what's the sum of the result of that? While it's great, one practical result of that, today if I say that there are 3 sandhyas, nobody understands. What are these sandhyas? Sandhya means morning, dawn, dusk and midday. There are 3 sandhyas when you're supposed to do Gayatri Japa. But because you're so free, these guys, even though there are some negative aspects to it, even in a railway station they throw a rug and bend down. See? So there are good things to learn everywhere. So only leave that and leave the rest. Thank you. You can raise it up.
Hello, sir. I have one question about energy. Is it possible to get a direct experience of the ultimate, a taste of it? I know one should be prepared and ready to...
Work hard for it.
Maybe a taste of it just a little. Just to keep us motivated.
You have to, when you're working hard enough, then perhaps the taste can be given, but not before that. People always think, oh, Swami Vivekananda went to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and he touched him. You are not Vivekananda and I am not Ram. No, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So, keep at it. tell you there is nothing you value more than a spiritual experience. You don't want anything else. Hold on like that, and then perhaps someday it will happen. Huh? You know what? If I give you a bombshell, you will be completely crazy. You cannot be normal. So don't be here. Go and sit down there.
Thank you. When we look at the world, we see a lot of awakening.
Yeah.
And certainly what you're doing is a part of that. When we look at other parts of the world, we see a closing in, the mind, not the heart. Where do you see that going?
I think we have a phase which we are going through now, where wherever the opening is taking place, it has to expand to such an extent that at some point, when those who are closed have had their bad experiences, and when they hunger for it, it will go there. This is how I see it. You are right, in some parts the opening is going on, some parts it's closing in. I think the opening has to increase in such a way that it's like a flood, and it takes in all those who are closed.
But where are we going? How do you, as a seer, see that?
I think ultimately people have go through various sufferings before they reach this reality. It can be individual, it can also be collective. I think that's what we are seeing, this movement. Thank you. So now I think we'll have to stop. It's 5 minutes to 7.